Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming in from. This is Spirit Matters coming at you live from New York. I'm Dal Grunga with Achuti Gopi, and we're so glad that you're here. If this is your first time with us, welcome. And for all those regular listeners, we're so glad that you're here to share your morning, day, evening, wherever you are with us. How are we doing this morning? I'm just Kishore's not with us. He's not going to be with us the rest of this week or next week. He's in Ecuador. And so it's going to be -1 for the next foreseeable future. How are we doing, Achuta?
I'm good. I'm bringing my own sunshine.
She's bringing her own sunshine. That's it. She's bringing her own sunshine. She's got the yellow sweater on. She's got the ring light. She's beaming.
The ring light's been there.
The ring light's always been there. Yes, but now maybe we should double it up. Maybe we need like 3 or 4 ring lights. Maybe we should all get Achuta a ring light for Christmas.
I'll see ring lights in my dreams now.
Ring lights in her dreams will turn into like a
No.
spotlight. Okay. We've been reading Bhagavad Gita, our spiritual dose of inspiration, and we are somewhere in the middle of the 3rd chapter. Where did we leave off yesterday? We read a few verses.
Yeah, we read a few verses yesterday. And we got through 10.
Great.
And we got through
We got
11.
through 10. We got through 11? Okay.
Yeah, and we also got through 12.
We
And then
got
we
through
ended
12.
on 13.
We ended on 13. Okay. Do we need to recap anything, or are we just going to dive into 13?
I think that we didn't dive so far into all of them. But we
No, we read
did.
them, but
Yeah, and we did speak about drawing parallels in the grand context of not just Mahabharata, but also the life of Sri Krishna, which was fun.
That was
So we
fun.
got to draw parallels between these few verses and the philosophy that Krishna speaks here versus the philosophy that Krishna speaks within the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam as a 7-year-old boy trying to
Yes, I remember.
convince his father to go against tradition.
I remember. So where are we going to go today? Are we going to dive back into any of these verses or pick up on a thread of thought from yesterday? Or are we gonna go forward with verse 13?
I kind of feel like, yeah, I mean, I do want to pick up on 13. And
Hmm.
then you can
Then
continue. You can do
let's
13.
go on to 13.
Let's do 13.
Let's do it. Are you gonna read or me?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okie dokies. Keep your hands and
Krishna.
arms inside the card at all times. Here we go.
So Krishna continues to speak. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin.
Ooh.
There's a part of this purport which is really nice. The devotees of the Supreme Lord, or the persons who are in Krishna consciousness, are called Shantas, Santas, and they're
Santas. Santas. Shanta.
I felt
Okay,
like this is
if you're not
appropriate for the
reading this along
season.
with us, you're not gonna get it. But we're
Yeah, this is
reading
totally appropriate for the season, though. Just saying,
for the sea of sun. So I guess is where we get the word saint from.
Yeah.
Uh and so Shanta means peaceful, also means devotee. So Shantas, also spelled as Santas.
And they're always in love with the Lord, as it is described in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. The Shantas always being in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Krishna, the all attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yagyas in different modes of devotional service, such as shravanam, hearing, kirtanam, chanting, smaranam, remembering, archanam, worship, etc. And these performances of yagyas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Kind of like that because
Mm,
it's as simple as being in love with the Supreme Person.
mm,
And this is a verse where we can think food offered first and sacrifice, but what if I don't know how to perform any sacrifices? I love how Srila Prabhupada has not excluded any of the simplistic or mundane activities done in Krishna consciousness as, oh, that can't be
mm.
sacrificed. Srila Prabhupada is saying it is as simple as remembrance. Smaranam
Yeah.
is a yajna, it is a sacrifice, which is so amazing because my sister and I were speaking the other day, and I was saying, service done in the mind, or manasa seva, is
Mm,
such an amazingly powerful thing because sometimes we hear of not having the different qualifications or even the different paraphernalia needed for sacrifice. Yagyas were
mm,
usually performed with great accumulations of gold and silver and wealth, and all of these Brahmins chanting mantras perfectly, and all of these different people, and etc., and the right conditions and the atmosphere on the right day at the right time. And sometimes we can think, what if I don't have all of that? And so this
mm,
service done within the mind, simple remembrance, Srila Prabhupada is saying, don't worry, you're not disqualified. But what I was saying to my sister was, I was like, sometimes we think of manasa seva, seva within the mind, as being done when we don't have the wealth, when we don't have the capabilities. But what
mm,
about if we just don't have the emotional capability that day?
mm. Wow.
What if we simply do not have the physical capability that day? What if our bodies and our minds are just not cooperating that day? The
Mm,
most amazing thing is that manasa seva still works.
mm. Could you share a little bit more about the idea of Manasa Seva and what that looks like and how that can get practiced? Sometimes we think of Manasa Seva, service in the mind, of like going deep into the forest or in a um, cave, or like setting up like this deep meditation where I'm just absorbed in this internal thought.
Mm.
Um, but can you share that in a more, if there's a more practical way, like what that looks like for you, or how we can just bring that into our daily lives?
Uh, Manasa Seva is as simple as this. Our
Mm,
Sangha right here, every day, we come and, funny, 18th chapter, Shri Krishna says, one who studies this Bhagavad Gita worships me with their
mm,
intelligence. Every day we come and we surrender and give our intelligence. We give our minds for half an hour. We perform a yajna.
mm,
This remembrance is yajna. Whether we are physically close together or we are distant, it doesn't matter.
mm,
Every morning we come together and we're reaping the benefits, actually. We see it in the chat. We see it by how many lives it's affecting. And is it because of us? No, of course not. It's because we are in the association of Sri Krishna. We have invoked the presence of our supreme friend every day in this assembly. And most of the time, we are coming with the only thing that is necessary, an eager heart. That's all that's needed. We have our eager hearts. We come, we bring them. We are hoping to find some relevance. My sister was speaking about that over the past weekend during our Bhagavad Gita panel. She was saying, if we want to find relevance, there will be relevance.
mm,
And so our eager hearts are the only necessity, and we bring them, and we just engage our minds. And so this reciprocation is that everybody shows up, and after, everybody's like, oh, that was a good one, today was a good one. But we hear that the majority of the days. So every day is a good one because Krishna's here.
Can you thank you? I think I really want to run on this train of thought. And you said we bring our eager hearts. And I think that in my own life, there are varying degrees of eagerness that come on a given days. And sometimes there are stretches of time, periods of life that encapsulates degrees of eagerness. And I think that one of the biggest a challenge that gets faced in spiritual life is when we're lacking eagerness. I wish I had eagerness or enthusiasm. I wish I had more of a desire to show up. But sometimes, and I think more and more today, when attention is pulled in so many different ways, there becomes apathy, or there becomes lethargy. Like I want to be connected in a deep way, but I also want to just hide, and I don't want to show up. Whether it's apathy, whether it's lethargy, whether it's shame, whether it's guilt, whatever it might be, how do we um how do we recharge that engine and generate that eagerness to keep showing up? um because it is a hard thing. It's something that we do every day. Like, not just we do the podcast every day, but in spiritual life, it's something that we want to commit ourselves to every day. Um, and so how do we motivate and generate that when we're lacking?
Sachinandan Maharaj was speaking once about japa, or this mantra meditation, which for some of us we have a prescribed number of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra rounds that we chant on beads, and it can take 2 hours and all that stuff. And he was bringing up the point that we are in a relationship, just like any other relationship. We might not always want to respond to that email. We might not always want to have that conversation. But we do know, in order to keep this relationship up and going, at some point I'm going to have to respond to that email. And we make time for it. We put it at some level of priority or importance in our lives. And Sachinandan Maharaj was saying, japa is when we respond to that email with Krishna, when we show up for that relationship with Krishna. And so I've taken to reminding myself why. Why am I chanting? Why am I doing this? Why am I going through so much endeavor? Is it for likes? Is it for the how I show up in public? Is it for the celebrity? What is it for? It's because I love Krishna, and because Krishna has been meeting me even more than halfway. When I want to hide, Krishna meets me more than halfway and sends friends. And it could be as simple as a friend asking a question. Yesterday, it was as simple as my 8-year-old nephew asking me a question. Hey, Auntie Achuta, what happened to all of Krishna's family members at the end of all? He sends me a voice note. It's like, hey, Auntie Achuta, I was just thinking. And then we wound up having a 15-minute discussion about Krishna and his family. It is as simple as recognizing when Krishna is reaching out. Krishna reaches out so many times, so many different ways. And so then I start chanting japa in a mood of gratitude. Thank you. Because I love you, I'm now showing up also. I want to show up. And sometimes, Akuntita again, my dear sister says, sometimes all we need is to want to show up. That's where it starts. How accommodating is Krishna? They'll say even the desire to want to continue, Krishna will reciprocate with that. It's like Krishna is hungry to reciprocate with us. He'll take it any way, any form, anything at all. He will grasp at the chance to just reciprocate with us. And that helps me on the days when I don't want to show up, and when I want to hide, and when I feel the shame and the guilt and the pressure. What if I'm not doing everything perfectly? Well, then should I do it at all? Yes,
Mhm.
because even the desire is enough.
Yeah, I you mentioned about Krishna showing up for us or reaching out. And I think I agree with that. I think that Krishna is constantly reaching out to us. And sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we feel forgotten or feel alone, or like when you said Krishna sends friends, and my mind immediately goes to, what if I don't have any friends? Or some people feel very alone and like they don't have friends. um and sometimes we do go through lonely patches of life where we feel like Krishna's forgotten us, or the world's forgotten us, or everyone is connecting and finding these messages from Krishna but me, like I'm looking in my mailbox is empty. And could you speak a little bit about um looking for or noticing the ways Krishna reaches out to us, even if it's not the ways that we would expect or want or anticipate, or the ways that we see it for other people? Because I think that sometimes we think that, like you said, Krishna's my nephew reached out and asked me this question about Krishna. We had this 15 conversation. That's Krishna reaching out to me. That's Krishna showing up in my life. That's connection right there. And I think that sometimes there might be, um, in my life, I miss the ways that Krishna is reaching out to me. And I think that he's forgotten me. But actually, if I'm able to look closer, if I'm able to pay more attention, if I'm able to sort of accept that it's not always going to look like the way that I think it should or want it to, I can find it. It's there. I just have to be willing to expand the way that I expand the search. Um, so I was wondering if you could speak on that, or
Sure.
if you've had realization of that or thought about that.
What's crazy is I wrote a poem about it. I put it in a
You
book.
wrote a whole book of poems.
And within this book of poems, there's a poem called Missed Call. It says, "Oh my Lord, my love, how I've missed you. I spent so much time looking for you that I missed you in the hard times and in the rough times when the road was uncertain and the terrain rocky. I missed how you saved me. I missed you in the lessons and even in the tears of longing. I missed you in the silence and in my times of fear. When opportunities were closed to me, I missed the way you chose a new path for me, one that was perfectly suited to every facet of my being. When indecision arose, I missed the way you personally took the time to guide each of my steps, to approve each of my plans. When my heart hurt more than I ever thought it could, I missed the way you comforted me with nothing more than the very sound of your name. When I felt that I was completely lost, I missed the way you quietly protected me, sheltering me with your own self and guarding me with your infallible love. When I thought I could sink no deeper, I missed the way you raised me up carefully, invisibly, steadying me and piecing me back together until I could stand on my own once again. When I had nowhere else to turn, I finally turned to your name. And still I missed you in the way my voice faltered and my heart quickened. I missed you in the way my hands shook and my mind went blank. I sang your name and somehow still I missed you. Oh, my love, how I have missed you. While I was out looking for you in every possible distraction in the universe, I missed how you had always been present in my very own heart, filling every atom of my existence with you. How could I have ever missed this? Oh, my Lord, may I never ever miss you again.
Wow.
I think sometimes we complicate it.
Mm.
Krishna can't speak to me through this TV show. Why not? Krishna can't speak to me through the time on a clock. Why not? Krishna can't speak to me through nature, through a bird, through some random person saying anything. Why not?
I remember, I was hearing a devotee share a personal story in their life, and they were feeling very frustrated and wanting to just run away from Krishna. Like, I just got to get out of here. And so the two of them decided they were just gonna go watch a movie. And this was a while ago. And so they went to the movie, and then whatever movie it was, like a Muppets movie. It was some Muppets movie, and they went into the theater. And the opening scene of the movie, and before I forget which Muppet movie it was. And when they told the story, I remember that my mother actually saw the opening scene of this movie and told me. She was like, "Hey, have you seen the opening scene of this movie?" And so I knew what movie they were talking about. But she went to this Muppet and opened up, and it's some opening song of Kermit the Frog, and he's like singing
Yeah.
some song. I forget which song it was, but he's in the down in the creek or the swamp or wherever
I
he's
think it might
sitting.
have been. It might have even been. It's not easy being green. Like I
It's not
remember.
easy being green. Yeah. He's talking about this whole big emotional song, like pulling at the heartstrings. And then like this man on a boat starts coming down the street. He's like, "Help, help, help. I'm lost. I've lost all direction. I don't know where I am. I've lost. I'm lost." And Kermit goes, "Have you tried Hare Krishna?" And these two people were sitting there, was like, "We can't run away from Krishna. He's not letting us get away. We thought we would run away, just go watch a movie, but there he is." Um, and so thank you for reading that poem. Did that just come to you immediately? Did you have that queued up? It felt like this whole episode was just like like we felt like we planned this just to lead up to that poem. How'd
I
you pull
had
that out of your
no.
hat?
I had no preconceived anything. It's just you were asking the question. I was like, "Hey, I wrote a poem. I wonder if I could find it in the next 10 seconds."
When you first started reading, I was like, "Wow, she's got this memorized." And then afterwards went on, I was like, "So long, she's got to be checking reading this."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was so, excuse me, I was so moved by it, and I really, really, and we've only got a couple minutes left, but I I was almost wanting to. I mean, there's a when you read a poem like that, and my meditation of the last couple days, or my takeaway or my closing word has been about looking deeper into every person that I meet, and being aware of the universe that is every individual living being's existence, and that everybody experiences the same emotions I experience. They experience in their own way, but my life is not uniquely more complex than anybody else's. And everybody has their childhood challenges. Everybody has their parental wounds. Everybody has their feelings of spiritual disconnection and loss. Everybody has their anxiety. Everybody has their worry about relationship, about finance, about purpose, about being a failure, about feeling like they're not living up to their potential, like whatever it is. Like everybody has strong, deep human emotions connected to life experiences. And everybody has their what seems to them to be uh large scale human experiences, whether it's related to illness or death or relationship or career, etc. So as you're reading this poem, I just felt like it was almost like a movie of your life. And I was like, tell me more about what led to that. Like, what were the moments, and whether it was one or multiple, or um, I just wanted to dive deeper into the person of you. And because I felt like it was so deep, and it was so genuine, and it was so real, and it was almost kind of like you could make a movie out of it. Um, and uh and so I wanted to, whether we have the time now or whether we go and have lunch outside this podcast and we just talk in a non-public setting, sorry everybody, or whether we get into it, we lead off tomorrow. But I just I was so drawn into you and your life, and appreciating you as a deep thinker, as somebody reflecting deeply, um from the early, you shared early vulnerable stories about your child in your life. You've shared with me um, current context, circumstances of your life, etc. And I was just really appreciating your journey. And I was
Oh,
really appreciating the way that you navigate your journey, and the way that you continuously allow things to turn you more towards Krishna, and the amazing, beautiful devotee that you are, and how you're sharing that with others. And Just wanted to encourage you to keep being you.
It's much appreciated encouragement. Um, and I there is not just one example, but a verse that I came to love because I used to hate it was 10th chapter, and Krishna says of Bhagavad Gita, of all secret things, I am silence. And reflecting on that verse, sometimes we think, I've been praying to Krishna for so long and I haven't heard anything at all. I've heard nothing. Can we find him in the silence? Of all secret things, I am silence. And sometimes Krishna is there watching us, watching our struggles. It doesn't mean that he's doing nothing, but it does mean that he is there. And wherever there is Krishna, there is comfort, there is victory. There's all of these amazing, beautiful potencies. And so some of this poem was really me acknowledging that, okay, and all of the things that I just didn't think were favorable, I've missed you. I've been sitting here looking around, like, I've got to find Krishna. And Krishna's like, I'm here. I'm like, no, you're not. I've got to go find Krishna. And me finally saying, okay, wait, yes, you are. You're here. Even when I'm uncomfortable, you're here.
And that I think more than ever as we wind up this episode is why we're here in this podcast. And I remember because I'm always, and you know me, Achuta, we're closing in on 1 full year of this podcast, and the podcast began me reaching out to Achuta just to do a 1 week series of episodes that wasn't meant to go beyond that, and here we are, continuing obviously Krishna's arrangement. But I'm always the thinker of like, what's the angle of the podcast and what's our strategy? And we didn't start with the Bhagavad Gita. At a certain point, I was like, we got to be reading a book, and then we added the Bhagavad Gita, and then I was like, we got to be doing, and like, like what's the identity and what's the purpose and what's the value and what's the tagline and all of those things. But really, the more and more we do it, the more we get back to it's just the reminder. It's just a daily reminder. This podcast really is just a daily check-in and a daily reminder that that Krishna's reaching out, and that we're reaching out to each other, whether it's something through each other, through something that we read, through a story that pops up, whatever it might be. It's just that little reminder. And so thank you for giving that reminder, and thank you for all of us that are here, continuing to be here every day. We have a live Zoom audience that shows up every morning from all over the world. We have an international crew that shows up from Europe, India, South America, all over North America. And you are tuning out there in somebody shared on their Spotify WhatsApp, like, this is my #1 podcast. I was like, who's listening to this episode enough that it's their #1 podcast? Like, how is that happening? And we also have, if you're tuning in on Zoom, or if you want to get on, we actually have a little WhatsApp chat that where we post if we have any updates, if we're going to miss an episode or something like that. And we also have an email, spiritmatters@bhakticenter.org. So write to us, be in touch, because we love you and we're glad that you're with us. And as is tradition, we're going to turn it over to Kimberly, who's going to share with us a few takeaway points, some things that we can keep in our pocket and between now and next episode. So what do you got for us, Kimberly?
Thank you. Today we're taking away that it's as simple as remembering and being in love with the Supreme Person. The only necessary thing is our eager heart, and Krishna is constantly reaching out to us through everything, even a Muppets movie or silence. He's always present in our heart.
Thank you. Closing word, Achuta?
Those are the ways that I love. When we are completely not expecting it. And a friend just shared a total same experience with me. And they were saying, they were hanging out with someone. And they were saying, I've kind of been like wrapped up in my life the past couple of years. And I've just allowed myself to be wrapped up in my life. Not so much like Krishna, just wrapped up in my life, just doing my own thing. They were hanging out with someone and they were walking down a street, and all of a sudden this person just starts singing the Maha Mantra. And they're like, what the heck is going on? Like, what is happening? Because this was not supposed to occur. And they said that they just happened to like a song by a random artist that had this cool chant in it. And that was the part they could not get out of their head.
Yeah.
And I've heard story upon story upon story of people who have said, "Look, I'm gonna get away from you, Krishna. Like, this is too much. It's a cult, whatever it is. I'm getting away from you." And you could try, but no matter what, once Krishna's got you, Krishna does not let you leave. You might think you're gonna leave Krishna, but Krishna refuses to leave you.
Can I share another? I just share another quick story. It's more than a
Please.
little bit of closing word, but it happened. This is a couple years. I have a couple years ago. Kishore and I led a retreat in Greece. We were doing for a couple years. We were doing summer retreats somewhere in Europe. We did a retreat in Greece, and we went to the island of Crete. And then afterwards, Rasika and I, we usually take like a few days or a week, and we go out and do our own just kind of like vacation trip after that. And so we went to this place we've been to before in Greece, and there's this really beautiful beach. Greece has amazing, the most beautiful beaches I've seen in the world. And there's one little tiny beach. It's like the beaches in Greece, and I promise there's a point to this when I'm talking about the beaches of Greece. The beaches in Greece often they're hard to get to. It's like you're driving through the landscape of Greece and you're like, what's so beautiful about this? It's just like dry and arid and rocky and like, and then all of a sudden you turn this corner and you're just like, oh my God, like this is beautiful landscape. And so there's this one beach you have to kind of like climb down this big rocky thing, and it's very small and it's very narrow and there's not a lot of beach space. And you're in Greece and people are wearing not much. And there's all kinds of, people and beautiful people and people just laying out. And it's just like, it's kind of like the exact opposite of like the environment we were just in the street. We were doing kirtan and we were doing, et cetera. People are just lounging out at the beach. And, the men in Europe wear much, in America, you've got like below your knees swim shorts, and men in America have got like, there's not much there. And the women, there's not much there. And it was this crowded beach. And there was this one girl, and I promise it's almost uncomfortable for me to share the experience. Because there was this one girl she was like in a very scanty bikini, and she was laying on her stomach, just soaking up the sun. And, I'm walking by and I notice all of a sudden, like next to her head is a copy of Prabhupada's Gita. And I'm like, what is that doing there? And I saw it and I was like, okay, how do I confirm this without looking like a creep? Like, how do I like, confirm that? And I'm like looking over and I'm like, I got to document this somehow. And so I'm like, how do I get a picture of this ladies laying on the beach with Prabhupada's Gita without getting arrested,
Yeah.
And so I've got my phone and I'm trying to like figure it out, and I'm trying to like, and it was an Italian Gita. But
Wow.
it was like they were there, and this ran, and I wanted to go up and be like, "Hi, how's it going? I read the Gita too," but I didn't do anything. But I was just like, there it is in the midst of and it's all young people, doing whatever on the beach, this totally like material environment. And there's Prabhupada's Gita just sitting right there on someone's towel next to some
A
person
topless
soaking up
sunbather.
off
And
next to
those
some topless sunbather, as that was her, afternoon reading. And so I was just reminding of this sense of just like in the most unlikely of places, in the most what you would think of the most unlikely of people.
Yeah.
Krishna is reaching out. Krishna is planting himself. Like that person wasn't just a book that was there. Like that person has a story that they were somewhere in life and they're seeking, and someone gave them that book, or they bought that book and they thought, I'm going to go to the beach and I'm going to bring this book with me because there's something valuable here that I want to have and bring with me to my beach excursion.
Yeah.
And so, as you were saying, as you were walking down the street and somebody was just chanting Hare Krishna, like I was there at the beach, like I was like jumping out of my swimsuit, like there's Prabhupada's Gita,
It
And
kind of
so,
reminds us that like when we think about it, very little is actually mundane.
Yeah.
Krishna is present in everywhere, like
Yeah.
everywhere, everything. Very little is actually mundane.
Yeah. So Krishna's always reaching out and he's there. And so wanted to share that story. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you all so much out there. If you're listening to this podcast, whoever you were in Greece, thank you for being there. And I'm sorry if I looked like I was creeping you out. I was just trying to get a glimpse of Prabhupada's Gita. But we love you guys and we're so grateful for all of you. And thank you for being with us. Thank you for giving us reminders. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, be well, take care. Hare Krishna.